The morning Mara-chan turned 8, her mother made pancakes shaped like stars. They were not perfect stars. The points were lumpy and uneven, and one of them looked more like a potato with ambitions. But Mara did not care. She sat at the small metal table in their quarters on Colony 9, swinging her legs because the chair was too tall, and she ate the star pancakes with her fingers while her mother watched and smiled. "You're getting syrup on your shirt," her mother said. "I don't care," Mara said. "You should care. You're 8 now. 8-year-olds care about syrup on their shirts." Mara looked up at her mother with syrup on her chin. "I care about the pancakes. I don't care about the shirt." Her mother laughed. It was the kind of laugh Mara wanted to keep forever, the kind that started low in the chest and came out warm and full, like a bell being rung underwater. Her mother's name was Lien Chen, and she was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied living things on other planets. She worked long hours in the lab section of Colony 9. She smelled like soap and copper and something green, like cut grass, even though there was no grass on Colony 9. "Happy birthday, little star," her mother said. She reached across the table and wiped the syrup off Mara's chin with her thumb. "Do you want to hear your song?" "Yes," Mara said. She always said yes. Her mother hummed it. It was not a real song with words, not anymore. It used to have words, her mother told her, but the words were in a language no one spoke anymore, so now it was just the melody. A slow, rolling tune that went up and down like a wave on a quiet sea. Mara's eyes got heavy every time she heard it, even in the morning, even with syrup on her face. It made her feel like she was wrapped in something warm and nothing could reach her. Her mother hummed the last note and tapped Mara's nose. "There. Birthday song. Done. Now go get dressed. You've got school." Mara slid off the chair. She hugged her mother around the waist, pressing her face into the green-smelling shirt. Her mother's hand rested on the back of her head, fingers threading through her short black hair. "Love you, Mama," Mara said. "Love you, little star. Now go. You'll be late." Mara went. She pulled on her gray school uniform, brushed her teeth with the little blue brush, and grabbed her tablet. At the door, she turned back. Her mother was still at the table, staring at the half-eaten star pancakes, humming the last few notes of the lullaby under her breath. "Mama." Why do you always hum that song? Is it special?" Her mother looked up. Something moved behind her eyes, something quick and deep, like a fish turning under still water. Then she smiled. "It's very old, Mara. Older than me. Older than Colony 9. Older than Earth, maybe. I learned it from my mother, and she learned it from hers. It's been in our family for a very long time." "Did it always mean something?" Her mother was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "It means you're safe. That's all it ever means. You're safe, and someone is watching over you, and nothing can touch you." She paused. "That's what I want you to remember. Whatever happens, you're safe. Someone is watching over you." Mara nodded, though she did not fully understand. She was 8. 8-year-olds understood pancakes and school and the fact that the hallway lights on Deck 4 flickered in a pattern that looked like a code, but was probably just broken wiring. She waved and ran out the door. She did not know it was the last normal morning she would ever have. The Vreth came 3 days after Mara's birthday. They did not come with a warning. There was no message, no demand, no slow approach on the long-range scanners. One moment, the sky above Colony 9 was its usual flat grey, the color of old dishwater. The next moment, it was full of ships. They were black and angular, like broken teeth against the clouds. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. They filled the sky in every direction, and the light they blocked turned the colony into a permanent grey dusk. The air pressure changed. Mara felt it in her ears, a deep popping, like going down in an elevator too fast. The alarm sounded. It was not the drill alarm, the one that went beep 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 and meant you walked calmly to the shelter and sat on the floor and waited for the all-clear. This alarm was different. This alarm was a long, low moan, like a wounded animal, and it came from every speaker on the colony at once. Mara was in school, sitting at her desk, drawing a horse in the margin of her tablet, when the sound hit. Her teacher, Mr. Oren, went white. "Everyone under your desks," he said. His voice was flat and careful, the way adults sounded when they were trying very hard not to be scared. "Now. Under your desks. Do not make noise." Mara slid under her desk. The floor was cold. Around her, other children were doing the same, pulling their knees to their chests, pressing their hands over their ears. Some were crying. A boy named Dax was whispering a prayer in a language Mara did not recognize. The moaning alarm stopped. In the silence that followed, Mara heard something else. A sound from outside, above the colony dome. A grinding, tearing sound, like metal being pulled apart by enormous hands. Then the ground shook. Not a small shake. Not the kind you felt when the cargo shuttles landed on Pad 7. This was a full, deep, rolling shake that knocked the desk sideways and sent tablets skittering across the floor. The lights went out. Emergency reds came on, painting everything in the color of blood. Mr. Oren was on his knees, holding the edge of a desk. "Stay down," he said. "Stay down, everyone." The ceiling cracked. Not the real ceiling, the sky ceiling, the dome. But Mara could hear it, a sound like thunder made of glass. And then the air changed. It got colder. It smelled different, sharp and chemical, like the air in the lab section, but wrong, twisted, like the chemicals had gone bad. The Vreth were inside. Mara did not see them, not yet. But she heard them. Heavy footsteps, too many legs, clicking against the metal floors of the colony. And voices, if they could be called voices. Low, grinding sounds, like stones being rubbed together underwater. They were speaking, but not in any language Mara had ever heard. The door to the classroom burst open. They were tall. That was the first thing Mara noticed, pressing her face against the cold floor, peering out from under the desk. They were very tall, maybe 8 feet, and thin, like they had been stretched. Their skin was pale gray, almost white, and it had a faint shimmer to it, like oil on water. Their faces were long and narrow, with no noses, just 2 slits above a wide, lipless mouth. Their eyes were black, fully black, no white, no iris, just 2 deep holes in a pale face. They wore armor that looked grown rather than built, dark and ridged, like the shell of some deep-sea creature. They carried weapons that hummed with a low, sick vibration. There were 6 of them in the doorway. Behind them, in the hallway, Mara could see more. And beyond them, through the cracked dome, the black ships hung in the sky. One of the Vreth stepped into the room. It looked down at the desks. It looked at the children underneath them. It made a sound, a short bark, and the others moved. They began pulling children out from under the desks. Mara screamed. She could not help it. She grabbed the leg of the desk and held on, but the Vreth was too strong. Its hand wrapped around her upper arm, fingers like cold iron bands, and it lifted her up as easily as lifting a doll. She kicked. She hit the arm with her free hand. It was like hitting a wall. "Let me go," she shouted. "Let me go, let me go." The Vreth did not react. It did not look at her. It carried her out of the classroom, into the hallway, where other children were being carried, crying, struggling. Mr. Oren was on the ground, a dark stain spreading across his shirt, his eyes open and staring at nothing. Mara looked away. She looked away and squeezed her eyes shut and tried to think of star pancakes and the smell of green and the sound of the lullaby. "You're safe. Someone is watching over you. Nothing can touch you." But no one was watching. And something had touched her. And it was cold, and it was holding her arm too tight, and she was 8 years old, and she was scared. They marched the children through the colony. Mara kept her eyes mostly shut, but she saw enough. She saw the dome cracked open like an egg. She saw the colony gardens, the ones she helped water every Tuesday, crushed under the feet of Vreth soldiers. She saw people, adults, being herded into groups, their hands raised, their faces blank with shock. They were brought to the landing pad. The big one, Pad 1, where the cargo ships came and went. Now it was full of Vreth ships, black and angular, humming with that low, sick vibration. The children were lined up. Mara counted. 22 of them. All from the school block. All between 6 and 10 years old. A Vreth walked down the line. This one was different. Taller than the others, and its armor was darker, ridged with something that looked like gold. It had a device on its wrist, a small screen that glowed blue. It stopped in front of each child, looked at them, looked at the screen, and moved on. When it reached Mara, it paused. Its black eyes looked down at her. Mara looked back, because she was 8 and she was scared, and she had decided, in the stubborn way of 8-year-olds, that she would not cry. Not in front of them. She would not give them that. The Vreth tapped its screen. It made a sound, a short click, and then it moved on. Mara did not know what the screen said. She did not know that the Vreth were scanning the children for genetic markers, for neural patterns, for anything that might indicate usefulness. She did not know that she registered as unremarkable in every category. Average height. Average weight. Average neural development. No special talents. No mutations. No value. She did not know that this was why they chose her. They took her 2 days later. 2 days in a holding cell. A small, gray room with no windows and a metal floor that was always cold. They gave her water and a gray paste that tasted like nothing. She did not eat much. She sat in the corner with her knees pulled up and her arms wrapped around them, and she hummed the lullaby. Over and over. The melody her mother had hummed over star pancakes, over bedtime, over scraped knees and bad dreams and the first day of school. She hummed it because it was the only thing she had left. The only thing that smelled like home, even if it was just a sound. The only thing that made her feel, for a few seconds, like someone was watching over her. On the second day, the door opened. 2 Vreth guards stepped in. They grabbed her arms and pulled her up. Mara went limp, then stiff, then limp again. She did not fight. There was no point. They were too big, and she was 8, and her legs were shaking so badly she could barely walk. They took her through corridors she had never seen. Down, always down, into the belly of the Vreth command ship that had landed on Pad 1. The walls here were not metal. They were something organic, dark and ridged, pulsing faintly with a dim bioluminescence. The air was thick and warm and smelled like iron and wet stone. They walked for a long time. Mara lost count of the turns. Left, right, down a ramp, through a wide archway, down another ramp. The sounds grew louder. A low roar, like a crowd, but wrong. Not human voices. The grinding, clicking voices of the Vreth, thousands of them, all at once. They came to a door. It was huge, twice the height of the guards, made of the same dark organic material as the walls. It opened with a sound like a sigh, and the noise hit Mara like a physical force. The arena. It was vast. A bowl-shaped pit, easily 100 meters across, surrounded by tiered seating that climbed up and up into shadow. The seats were full. Thousands of Vreth, packed shoulder to shoulder, their black eyes fixed on the center of the pit. Their voices merged into a single, grinding roar that vibrated in Mara's teeth. At the center of the pit, the floor was sand. Pale, gray sand, raked smooth. And at the far end, behind a barrier of thick, translucent material, something was pacing. Mara could not see it clearly. It was white. Very white. It moved fast, back and forth, and even from this distance, Mara could feel the speed of it. The way the air seemed to ripple around it. The way the sand kicked up behind its feet in long, white plumes. A guard shoved her forward. Mara stumbled into the pit. The sand was cold under her bare feet. They had taken her shoes. They had taken her tablet. She was in her gray school uniform, stained and wrinkled, and she stood in the middle of the arena with 10,000 alien eyes on her, and she was 8 years old, and she was alone. A voice boomed from somewhere above. It was in the Vreth language, grinding and harsh, but a translation came through speakers embedded in the walls, flat and mechanical. Specimen, human. Female. Juvenile. Designation, unremarkable. This specimen has been selected for the right of consumption. The instrument of judgment is Ghost Fong, the swift death, the white runner, the fastest predator in the known galaxy. The right is absolute. The right is final. Witness. The crowd roared. The sound was like a wave crashing over Mara, pressing her down. Her knees buckled. She caught herself. She stood up. She would not kneel. She would not. At the far end of the pit, the barrier began to rise. The direwolf came out like a bullet. It was white. Not cream, not ivory, not the white of snow or milk or paper. It was the white of absence, the white of a place where color had been removed, leaving only shape and motion. Its fur was short and sleek, pulled tight over a body that was all muscle and angular bone. It was huge, the size of a small car, and it moved with a speed that made Mara's eyes water. One moment it was at the far end of the pit. The next it was halfway across, sand exploding behind its paws. Ghost Fong. The swift death. The white runner. It was an albino direwolf, engineered and bred and sharpened over generations by the Vreth for one purpose: to be the fastest killing thing in the galaxy. Its legs were too long for its body, built for stride length. Its chest was deep, built for lung capacity. Its eyes were pale pink, almost red, and they were locked on Mara. The crowd screamed. The Vreth loved this. They loved the speed, the violence, the absolute certainty of it. Ghost Fong had never failed. Not once. Not in 412 rights. It did not play with its prey. It did not circle or stalk. It ran, and it killed, and it was over before the blood hit the sand. Mara saw it coming. Time did something strange. It stretched. Mara had heard about this, in the stories her mother told her, the old stories about soldiers and pilots. They said that in the moment before death, time slowed down, and you could see everything, every detail, every grain of sand. Mara thought that was a story. But it was happening. She could see the individual grains of sand kicking up behind Ghostfang's paws. She could see the ripple of muscle under its white fur. She could see its pink eyes, wide and focused, and the slight parting of its jaws, showing teeth like curved knives. It was fast. So fast. The fastest thing in the galaxy, and it was coming for her, and she was 8 years old, and she had no shoes, and her mother was somewhere in this ship, and she was going to die. She was going to die, and she was 8, and no one was watching over her. Mara closed her eyes. She did not run. There was no point. She could not outrun the fastest thing in the galaxy. She could not fight it. She could not hide. So she closed her eyes, and she stood in the sand, and she did the only thing she had left. She hummed. It came out small and shaky, a thin thread of sound in the roar of the crowd. The lullaby. The old melody, the one her mother hummed over pancakes, the one that meant you're safe, someone is watching over you, nothing can touch you. Mara hummed it because it was all she had. Because it was her mother's voice, and her mother's mother's voice, and her mother's 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 voice, going back and back and back. Older than Colony 9, older than Earth, maybe. She hummed it, and she waited for the teeth. The teeth did not come. Mara opened her eyes. Ghostfang was 10 feet away. It had stopped. Not slowed, not hesitated. Stopped. One moment it was a white blur closing at 300 kilometers per hour. The next moment it was still, planted in the sand, its long legs locked, its head tilted to one side. Its pink eyes were wide. Not focused on Mara. Focused on the sound. The lullaby. The thin, shaky thread of melody coming from the throat of an 8-year-old girl in a dirty gray uniform. The crowd went quiet. Not slowly. Instantly. 10,000 breath voices cut off at once, replaced by a silence so total it had weight. Every black eye in the arena was fixed on the pit. On the wolf. On the girl. On the impossible thing happening between them. Mara did not stop humming. She could not stop. Her eyes were open now, and she could see Ghostfang, could see the tremor running through its body, the way its ears were flat and forward, the way its nose was twitching. But she could not stop humming. The melody was coming out of her on its own, steady now, stronger, filling the silence of the arena like water filling a bowl. Ghostfang's head tilted the other way. Its ears swiveled. The tremor in its body changed, shifted, became something else. Not fear. Not aggression. Something older. Something buried deep in the wiring of its engineered brain, in the layers of code and instinct that the Vreth had built into it over generations. The lullaby hit a frequency. Not a sound frequency, not exactly. A neural frequency. A resonance. The melody, the specific sequence of notes, the exact intervals between them, matched a pattern buried in Ghostfang's neural architecture. A pattern the Vreth had never found, never mapped, never suspected was there. A failsafe. A lock. A key that had been waiting, patient and silent, for someone to turn it. Ghostfang's legs folded. Not a stumble. Not a collapse. A deliberate, controlled lowering. The great white wolf sank to the sand, its belly touching the ground, its head dropping, its eyes closing. It made a sound, low and deep, a vibration that Mara felt in her chest. Not a growl. Not a whine. Something else. Something like a sigh. Something like relief. The arena was silent. The entire Vreth Dominion, every soldier, every commander, every high official in the tiered seats, stared at the pit and did not breathe. Mara stopped humming. The last note faded. Ghostfang's ears twitched. Its pink eyes opened and found her. And then the fastest direwolf in the galaxy, the Swift Death, the White Runner, the instrument of 412 executions, lowered its head to the sand at the feet of an 8-year-old girl. It bowed. Mara stared at the wolf. The wolf stared at the sand. 10,000 Vreth stared at both of them. No one moved. No one breathed. The silence stretched, thin and tight, like a wire about to snap. Mara took a step forward. Her bare foot pressed into the sand. Ghostfang's ears flicked toward the sound. It did not raise its head. It did not move. It lay in the sand, belly down, head low, pink eyes half closed, and it waited. Mara took another step. Then another. She walked toward the wolf the way she would walk toward a stray dog behind the colony gardens. Slowly. Carefully. With her hands visible and her breathing steady. Her mother had taught her that. Let them see you coming. Let them know you're not a threat. Let them choose. She stopped 3 feet from Ghostfang's nose. The wolf's breath was warm on her shins. She could smell it, musk and iron and something clean, like cold air. She could see the individual hairs of its fur, each one white and fine. She could see the scars on its flank, old and silver, from fights she would never know about. She reached out her hand. The crowd made a sound. A sharp, collective intake of breath, translated into a hiss through the speakers. The Vreth were afraid. Not of the wolf. Of the girl. Of what was happening. Of the thing that should not be happening, the thing that had never happened in 412 rights. Mara's fingers touched the top of Ghostfang's head. The wolf shuddered. A full-body tremor, from nose to tail, like a dog shaking off water. Then it was still. Then it pushed its head up, gently, into Mara's palm. The bond was instantaneous. Mara felt it like a door opening in her chest. Not a metaphor. A real, physical sensation, a warmth spreading from her sternum outward, filling her arms, her legs, her fingertips. And with the warmth came something else. A presence. A mind, vast and simple and old, pressing against hers. Not words. Not thoughts. Something more basic. An emotion. A single, clear, overwhelming emotion. Finally. Ghostfang had been waiting. For 412 rights, it had killed. It had run, and it had killed, and it had felt nothing. The Vreth had built it to feel nothing. But somewhere in the deep architecture of its brain, in the layers below the engineering, below the speed and the aggression and the kill drive, there was a space. A hollow. A space shaped like a frequency. A space that had been empty for its entire life, waiting for the one sound that would fill it. The lullaby filled it. And now Ghostfang was not a weapon. Ghostfang was not the Swift Death or the White Runner or the instrument of judgment. Ghostfang was a wolf. And wolves do not serve masters. Wolves serve family. Wolves serve pack. And Mara was pack. Mara's hand stroked the top of Ghostfang's head. The wolf's eyes closed. Its tail, long and white, swept once across the sand. Mara looked up. She looked at the tiered seats, at the thousands of Vreth staring down at her. She was 8. She was small. She had no shoes and no weapons and no plan. But she had the wolf. And the wolf was hers. And she was not afraid anymore. She climbed onto Ghostfang's back. It was like climbing a hill. The wolf's fur was warm and thick, and Mara grabbed a handful of it and swung her leg over. Ghostfang stood, smooth and easy, lifting her up. Up. Up until Mara was looking down at the sand, down at the empty space where she had stood, down at the 10,000 faces of the Vreth Dominion. She was higher than all of them. Higher than the guards. Higher than the commanders. Higher than the high officials in their gold-ridged armor. She sat on the back of the fastest thing in the galaxy, and she looked down, and she was not afraid. Ghostfang turned. It faced the far wall of the arena, where the barrier had come down, where the corridor led back into the ship. It faced the exit. It faced the way out. And it ran. The Vreth tried to stop them. Of course they did. Guards rushed the pit, weapons raised, humming with that low, sick vibration. The commander in the gold armor shouted orders, grinding syllables that the translation speakers rendered as flat, urgent commands. Kill the specimen. Kill the wolf. Contain. 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 But Ghostfang was too fast. It launched from the sand like a white missile, and the guards fired, and the shots hit the sand where Ghostfang had been a half-second before. Mara flattened herself against the wolf's back, her fingers buried in its fur, her eyes squeezed shut. The wind hit her like a wall, tearing at her uniform, pulling at her hair. The sound was enormous, a roar of displaced air, and underneath it, the drumbeat of Ghostfang's paws, impossibly fast, impossibly steady. They hit the corridor wall. Ghostfang did not slow. It hit the organic wall of the ship at 300 kilometers per hour, and the wall broke. Not cracked. Broke. Shattered inward in a spray of dark, wet material, and Ghostfang was through, running, down the corridor, past the stunned guards, past the sealed doors, past the blinking lights and the humming machinery. Mara opened her eyes. The corridor was a blur, a streak of dark and light, dark and light. She could feel Ghostfang's body beneath her, the pump of its legs, the flex of its spine, the raw, impossible power of it. And she could feel the bond, the warm thread in her chest, and through it, she could feel the wolf's mind. Not thoughts. Not words. Just a direction. A purpose. Out. 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 Alarms screamed. Red lights pulsed. The ship was waking up, responding, trying to lock down, to seal corridors, to trap them. Doors slid shut ahead. Ghostfang hit them like they were paper. Walls closed in. Ghostfang went through them. The Vreth had built this ship to withstand orbital bombardment, and the fastest direwolf in the galaxy was running through it like a white needle through cloth. Mara saw guards ahead. A line of them, weapons raised, forming a wall across the corridor. 20 of them. 30. Their weapons hummed. Their black eyes were wide. Ghostfang did not slow. It hit the line of guards like a freight train. Bodies flew. Weapons clattered. The corridor was suddenly empty, and Ghostfang was still running, and Mara was still on its back, and she was not crying, she was not screaming, she was holding on and she was going out. They hit the outer hull. Ghostfang's claws tore through the organic material, and suddenly there was light. Real light. Not the red pulse of alarms, not the dim bioluminescence of the ship's walls. Sunlight. Gray and flat, the color of Colony 9's sky, but real. Real and warm and open. Ghost Fong burst through the hull of the command ship and landed on the landing pad. Pad 1. The big one. The one where they had lined up the children 3 days ago. Mara blinked. The air hit her face, cold and sharp and free. She could see the sky, the flat gray sky with the black ships hanging in it. She could see the colony dome, cracked and dark. She could see the gardens, crushed. She could see the holding cells, the school block, the quarters where her mother had made star pancakes. Ghost Fong ran. Across the pad, past the Vreth shuttles, past the stunned soldiers who turned and raised weapons and fired too late, always too late, because the white runner was already gone, already a white streak on the gray ground, already heading for the tree line, for the hills, for the open space beyond the colony where nothing could cage it and nothing could stop it. Behind them, the command ship groaned. The hole Ghost Fong had punched in its hole was jagged and wet, and dark fluid was leaking from it. Alarms wailed. Figures were pouring out of the breach, small and pale and furious. But they were already too far behind. Ghost Fong was faster. Ghost Fong was the fastest thing in the galaxy, and it was carrying an 8-year-old girl in a dirty gray uniform, and it was not stopping. They ran for an hour. Maybe more. Mara lost track. Time was strange again, but not the slow, stretched time of the arena. This was the opposite. Time flew. The landscape blurred and shifted, the gray plains of Colony 9 giving way to rocky hills, to scrubland, to the thin, pale forests that grew on the northern ridge. Ghost Fong ran through all of it, tireless, relentless, a white arrow shot from a bow that never stopped pulling. When it finally slowed, it was in a valley. A small, sheltered dip between two hills, hidden from the sky by a canopy of pale, twisted trees. There was a stream here, thin and cold, running over smooth stones. The air smelled like water and earth and something faintly sweet, like sap. Ghost Fong stopped. It stood in the stream, water lapping at its paws, and it breathed. Great, deep breaths, its ribs expanding and contracting under the white fur. Steam rose from its body in the cool air. Mara slid off its back. Her legs were shaky. Her hands were cramped from gripping the fur. She stood in the stream, the cold water numbing her feet, and she looked at the wolf. Ghost Fong looked back. Its pink eyes were calm. The kill drive was gone. The aggression was gone. What was left was something quiet and watchful and old. It looked at Mara the way her mother had looked at her over the star pancakes. With a kind of tired, patient love. Mara sat down in the stream. The water soaked through her uniform. She did not care. She put her face in her hands and she cried. She cried for Mr. Oren, staring at nothing on the classroom floor. She cried for the other children, still in the cells. She cried for the colony, broken and dark. She cried for the star pancakes and the lullaby and the smell of green. She cried because she was 8, and she was alone, and she had ridden a direwolf through an alien warship, and she wanted her mother. Ghost Fong lay down in the stream beside her. It put its great white head in her lap, and it breathed, slow and steady, and the warmth of its fur soaked through her wet uniform. Mara buried her fingers in the fur and cried into it, and the wolf did not move, did not flinch, just breathed, just stayed, just was there. After a long time, the crying stopped. Mara sniffled. She wiped her face with her sleeve. She looked down at the wolf. "I'm Mara," she said. Her voice was small and hoarse. "I'm 8. I like pancakes shaped like stars." Ghost Fang's ears twitched. I don't know what you are, Mara said. I don't know why you stopped. I don't know why the song worked. But you stopped. And you carried me. And I don't know what to do now. The wolf blinked. It pushed its nose into her palm. Mara took a breath. She looked at the sky through the canopy, at the grey light filtering down. Somewhere out there, the Vreth were looking for her. Somewhere out there, the other children were still locked up. Somewhere out there, her mother was in a cell, or dead, or worse. But she was here. And the wolf was here. And the song was in her, the old song, the one that meant you're safe, someone is watching over you. Mara stood up. Her legs were still shaky, but they held. Okay, she said. Okay. We need to go back. We need to get the others out. All of them. The kids. The grown-ups. My mama. She looked at Ghost Fong. Can you run that fast again? Ghost Fong stood. It shook water from its fur, spraying Mara, and she laughed, a wet, broken sound. It looked at her. It looked back toward the way they had come. It was ready. They did not go back right away. Mara was 8, and she was tired, and she was hungry, and Ghost Fong, for all its speed, could not run forever. They rested in the valley for 2 days. Mara found berries, small and tart, growing in clusters along the stream. She caught a fish with her hands, badly, and ate it raw because she had no fire. Ghost Fong hunted something in the trees and ate it in the dark, and Mara tried not to listen. On the second night, Mara lay on her back in the grass, looking up at the stars through a gap in the canopy. Ghost Fong was curled around her, a white crescent, its breath warm on her neck. Mama said the song was old, Mara whispered. Older than Colony 9. Older than Earth. She said it's been in our family forever. Ghost Fang's ear twitched. But why does it work on you? Mara asked. Why does it work on a Vreth wolf? You're not from Earth. You're not from my family. You're not from anywhere the song should reach. The wolf blinked. It had no answer. It was a wolf. It did not understand songs or families or the long, winding history of a melody passed from mother to daughter for 1,000 generations. But Mara thought about it. She thought about it the way she thought about the flickering lights on Deck 4, the way she thought about the patterns in things, the hidden shapes underneath. Her mother was a xenobiologist. She studied living things on other planets. She studied the Vreth before the invasion. Before the ships came. And the song was in the family. In Mara's family. Going back and back and back. What if her mother had known? Not about the invasion. Not about Ghost Fong. But about the shape of the thing. About the frequency. About the fact that somewhere, someday, something would be built that needed this exact key. Mara's mother had studied the Vreth for 11 years. She had mapped their biology, their neural architecture, their genetic engineering programs. She had published papers. She had given lectures. She had sat in her lab on Colony 9, surrounded by data and samples and holographic models, and she had looked at the Vreth weapons program, the direwolf project, the thing they called the Swift Death. And she had seen the gap. The hollow. The empty space in the neural architecture where something should be but wasn't. A failsafe that was supposed to be there, that the Vreth engineers had designed but never filled. A lock without a key. And Lien Chen, xenobiologist, mother of one, maker of star pancakes, had looked at that empty space, and she had thought, what if I put something there? What if I plant a seed? What if I make a song that fits this lock, and I give it to my daughter, and she gives it to her daughter, and one day, when the Vreth finally build the thing they're going to build, a child will be standing in front of it, and she will hum, and the lock will open. It was insane. It was impossible. It required a knowledge of the future that no one could have. But Lien Chen had studied the Vreth for 11 years. She had seen the trajectory. She had seen the weapons program growing, sharpening, accelerating. She had seen the direwolf project moving from prototype to production. She had seen the right of consumption being designed, codified, prepared. And she had done the math. Not the math of certainty. The math of probability. The math of what if, someday, a child stands in front of this thing, and she has nothing but her voice? So she had written the song. Not composed it. Not invented it. Encoded it. Built the melody around the exact neural resonance of the Vreth direwolf failsafe. Hidden the key inside a lullaby. Wrapped it in warmth and safety and the smell of green, and given it to her daughter, and said, "Sing this. Always sing this. And if the day comes, and you're scared, and you don't know what to do, just hum. Just hum, and you'll be safe." Mara lay in the grass and cried for the second time. Not because she was sad. Because she understood. Because her mother, dead or alive, captured or free, had reached across time and space and the cold, grinding machinery of an alien war machine, and she had put a shield in her daughter's throat. A shield made of music. A shield made of love. You're safe. Someone is watching over you. Nothing can touch you. Ghost Fong pressed its nose into Mara's hair. The wolf did not understand. But it felt the change in her, the shift from fear to something harder, something warmer, something with a point. Mara wiped her eyes. She sat up. She looked at the stars. "Okay, Mama," she whispered. "I know what to do." They went back on the third morning. Ghost Fong ran. Not at full speed, not the 300-kilometer blur. A steady, ground-eating lope that covered kilometers in minutes. Mara rode on its back, her hands in its fur, her eyes open. She watched the landscape scroll past. The gray plains. The rocky hills. The thin forests. And then, in the distance, the colony. The cracked dome. The black ships. But Mara did not go to the colony. Not yet. She steered Ghost Fong east, toward the ridge, toward the old communications array that sat on the highest point of Colony 9. It was a relic, built in the first days of the colony, before the Vreth, before anyone knew what was out there. A dish, a transmitter, a signal booster. Old tech. Human tech. The kind the Vreth ignored because it was beneath them. Mara had been there once, on a school trip. Mr. Oren had taken them. He had shown them the dish, the transmitter, the old control room with its dusty screens and manual switches. "This is how we used to talk to Earth," he had said. "Before the relay satellites. Before the quantum links. Just a dish and a signal and a lot of patience." Mr. Oren was dead. Mara pushed that down. She pushed it into the same place where she had put the fear and the hunger and the cold, and she locked the door, and she focused. Ghost Fong reached the ridge. The communications array was there, rusted and silent, the dish pointing at the sky like a cupped hand. The control room door was open. Inside, the screens were dark. The air smelled like dust and old coffee. Mara slid off Ghost Fang's back. She walked into the control room. She looked at the screens. She looked at the switches. She looked at the big red button labeled Transmit, which Mr. Oren had told them, jokingly, never to press. She pressed it. The screens flickered. A low hum filled the room. The dish outside groaned, shifted, tilted. Old systems, dead for years, coughed to life. Mara grabbed the microphone. It was heavy, metal, cold. She did not know what frequency to use. She did not know who was listening. She did not know if anyone was left, if Earth was still there, if anyone cared about a broken colony on the edge of Vreth space. She pressed the transmit button. She opened her mouth. And she hummed the lullaby. Not as a weapon. Not as a key. As a signal. As a beacon. As a voice saying, I am here. I am alive. I need help. Please. Someone. Anyone. I am here. The signal went out. The dish fired it into the sky, a narrow beam of encoded sound, aimed at nothing, aimed at everything, aimed at the stars and the silence and the long, cold distance between Colony 9 and anywhere else. Mara hummed until her throat was raw. Then she stopped. She put the microphone down. She sat on the dusty floor of the control room and waited. Ghost Fong lay in the doorway, watching the sky. They waited for 6 hours. The answer came at sunset. Not from the sky. From the ground. From the colony. From a frequency Mara had not thought to monitor, a local channel, short range, buried under static. A voice. Human. Female. Hoarse and tired and shaking, but alive. If anyone is receiving this, this is Dr. Lien Chen, Colony 9, Deck 7, Lab Section. I am alive. I am in the lower holding cells with approximately 200 colonists. The children from the school block are in Sector 4, East Wing. The Vreth command ship is damaged. They are in disarray. If anyone can hear me, we need extraction. We need help. Please. Mara grabbed the microphone. Her hands were shaking. Mama, she said. Mama, it's Mara. I'm at the communications array on the ridge. I'm alive. I'm okay. Silence. Then a sound that was not a word. A breath. A broken, shuddering breath. Mara. I'm okay, Mama. I'm okay. I have a wolf. A what? A direwolf. An albino one. The fast one. The one they were going to feed me to. But I hummed the song. The lullaby. And it stopped. And it's mine now. It's my wolf. A long silence. Then, softly, so softly Mara almost missed it, the song worked. Yeah, Mama. The song worked. Another silence. Longer this time. When Lien spoke again, her voice was different. Steadier. The scientist was back, underneath the mother, looking at the data, running the numbers. Mara. Listen to me. The Vreth command structure is hierarchical. The command ship is the central node. If it's damaged, the local forces will be in confusion, but they will regroup. You have maybe 12 hours before they reorganize. Can you get to Sector 4? Can you get to the children? Mara looked at Ghost Fong. The wolf looked back. Its pink eyes were steady. Yeah, Mara said. Yeah, I can. The Vreth guards will be scattered, but they will still be armed. Do not engage them. You are 8 years old, Mara. You are not a soldier. You are a child. You go in, you get the children, and you get out. Can you do that? Yes, Mama. And Mara? Yeah. I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I made you carry the song without telling you what it was. I'm sorry I made you 8 years old and gave you a key to a lock you didn't know existed. Mara swallowed. It's okay, Mama. You made me pancakes shaped like stars. A sound on the other end. A laugh. A broken, wet, beautiful laugh. Go get the children, little star. I'll be here. I'll be waiting. Mara put the microphone down. She stood up. She walked to Ghost Fang. The wolf stood with her, its shoulder at her hip, warm and solid and real. We've got a job, Mara said. Sector 4. East Wing. The kids. Ghost Fang's ears went forward. They ran. The colony was dark. The dome was cracked in 3 places, and the emergency lights had died, leaving the corridors in a grey half-gloom. The Vreth were everywhere, but they were confused. The command ship's damage had disrupted their communications, their coordination, their chain of command. They moved in small groups, patrolling, searching, but without purpose. Without the central signal that told them where to go and what to do. Ghost Fang moved through the corridors like a white ghost. It was fast, but not at full speed. Quiet. Controlled. Mara rode on its back, her body low, her eyes scanning. She saw Vreth patrols and steered Ghost Fang around them, down side corridors, through maintenance shafts, through the spaces between the walls that she had explored as a kid, the hidden passages of Colony 9 that no adult knew about but every child did. Sector 4 was in the East Wing, past the hydroponics bay, past the old dormitories, past the room where Mara had learned to ride a bicycle on training wheels and cried when she fell off. The corridor was wide here, and it was guarded. 4 Vreth soldiers stood in front of a sealed door. They were armed. They were alert. They were not confused. They were guarding something specific. Mara and Ghost Fang stopped at the end of the corridor. Mara looked at the guards. The guards had not seen them yet. She thought. She was 8. She did not have a weapon. She did not have a plan. She had a wolf. She leaned forward and whispered in Ghost Fang's ear. Can you be quiet? Really quiet? Like, sneaky quiet? Ghost Fang's ears flattened. It lowered its body. Its paws pressed into the floor, spreading, gripping. It became still. Not the stillness of rest. The stillness of a predator. A hunter. A thing that moved without sound, without displacement, without presence. Okay, Mara whispered. Sneaky quiet. Go. Ghost Fang moved. It was not speed. It was the opposite of speed. It was a slow, liquid flow, the white body pouring down the corridor like smoke, like water, like nothing. No sound. No vibration. No displacement of air. The Vreth guards stared at the door in front of them, and they did not see the white shape sliding along the wall behind them. Mara held her breath. She held Ghost Fang's fur and she held her breath and she let the wolf do what it was built to do. Not run. Not kill. Move. Move without being seen. Move without being heard. Move like the fastest thing in the galaxy was also the quietest. Ghost Fang reached the first guard. It did not attack. It pressed its nose against the back of the Vretha's knee, gently, softly, and pushed. The guard stumbled forward, caught itself, turned, and saw nothing. It turned back. Ghost Fang was already at the second guard. Another nudge. Another stumble. The guards were confused, turning, looking, their weapons raised at nothing. And in the confusion, in the turning and the looking and the what was that, Ghost Fang slipped past them. Mara slipped past them. They reached the sealed door, and Mara reached up and hit the release panel, and the door hissed open, and they were inside, and the door hissed shut behind them, and the guards were still outside, still turning, still looking at nothing. Sector 4. East Wing. The children were there. 21 of them. All ages, 6 to 10. They were in a large room, sitting on the floor, huddled together. Some were crying. Some were silent. Some were asleep, or pretending to be. Dax, the boy who had whispered prayers under his desk, was sitting in the corner with his eyes closed, his lips moving. They looked up when the door opened. They saw the white wolf. They screamed. "Wait!" Mara shouted. She slid off Ghostfang's back. She held up her hands. "Wait. It's okay. It's okay, it's me. It's Mara. From school. The wolf is mine. It's okay." They stared at her. 21 pairs of eyes, wide and wet and terrified. "It's Mara," she said, softer now. "From the horse-drawing class. I sit in the back. I draw horses in the margins. You know me." A girl near the front blinked. She had a bandage on her forehead and a smear of dirt on her cheek. "Mara? Mara-chan?" "Yeah." You're riding a wolf." "Yeah. It's a long story. We need to go. Now. Can you walk?" They could walk. They were scared, and they were tired, and they were hungry, and they had been locked in a room for 3 days. But they could walk. Mara got them up. She got them in a line. She put the smallest ones in the middle, the oldest ones on the edges, the way her mother had taught her to organize a group. Protect the middle. The edges can see. The middle is safe. Ghostfang took point. It walked ahead of the group, its white body a beacon in the gray corridor, and the children followed, and Mara walked at the back, and she hummed. The lullaby. Soft and steady. A thread of sound in the dark, saying you're safe, someone is watching over you. They walked. 22 children and a dire wolf, moving through the dark corridors of a broken colony, guided by an 8-year-old girl humming a song older than Earth. They did not see another Vreth guard. Ghostfang made sure of that. It moved ahead, silent, invisible, and wherever there was a guard, it was gone by the time the children arrived. Nudged. Confused. Turned around. Never hurt. Never killed. Just redirected. Like water flowing around a stone. They reached the lower holding cells. Deck 7. Lab section. Mara's mother was there. The cell door was locked. Mara hit the panel. It hissed. The door opened. Lian-chen was sitting on the floor of the cell, her back against the wall. Her lab coat was torn. Her hair was loose, tangled, falling over her face. There was a bruise on her cheekbone, dark and ugly. She looked thin. She looked tired. She looked like she had not slept in 3 days. She looked up. She saw Mara. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Lien was on her feet, and Mara was running, and they collided in the doorway, and Lien's arms wrapped around her daughter, and Mara's face pressed into her mother's neck, and they held each other. Lien smelled like soap and copper and something green. Faint now. Thin. But there. "I've got you," Lien whispered. "I've got you, little star. I've got you." "You made the song work," Mara said, muffled against her mother's shoulder. "You made it work, Mama. You knew. You knew it would work." Lien pulled back. She held Mara's face in her hands. She looked at her daughter, really looked at her, the way a scientist looks at a result she has been waiting 11 years to confirm. Her eyes were wet. Her hands were shaking. "I hoped," she said. "I hoped. I built the frequency into the melody, and I gave it to you, and I hoped. But hope is not certainty. Hope is not a plan. Hope is a mother humming a song and praying that someday, somewhere, the lock will open." She swallowed. "And it opened." "It opened," Mara said. Lien kissed her forehead. She kissed her cheeks. She kissed the top of her head. Then she stood up and looked at the 21 children behind Mara. At the white direwolf sitting patiently in the corridor. At the broken colony around them. "Okay," she said. Her voice changed. The mother stepped back. The xenobiologist stepped forward. "Okay. We have 12 hours before the Vreth regroup. We have 200 colonists in the lower cells. We have a damaged command ship and a confused ground force. And we have the fastest predator in the galaxy." She looked at Ghost Fang. "And an 8-year-old who rides it." She looked at Mara. "What's the plan, little star?" Mara thought. She was 8. She liked pancakes shaped like stars. She drew horses in the margins of her tablet. She did not have a plan. She had a wolf, and a song, and a mother, and 21 scared kids, and 200 colonists in cells, and a sky full of black ships. But she had the song. And the song was a key. And if it opened one lock, it could open others. "The other wolves," Mara said. Lien blinked. "What?" "The Vreth have more wolves. Right? Ghost Fang isn't the only one. They have a whole program. A whole pack." Lien stared at her. The scientist's mind turned. The gears clicked. "Yes. Yes, they do. The breeding facility is on the command ship. Deck 12. But the ship is damaged, the corridors are compromised." "The song works on Ghost Fang," Mara said. "It works on the neural architecture. All the wolves have the same architecture. You built the key for the species, not the individual." Lien's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. "Mara. That is either the smartest thing an 8-year-old has ever said, or the most dangerous. Can we do it?" A long pause. Lien looked at Ghost Fang. Ghost Fang looked back, pink eyes calm, tail sweeping the floor once. "Yes," Lien said slowly. "Yes, we can. If we can get to the breeding facility. If we can get close enough. If the song carries." "It carries," Mara said. She touched her throat. "It carries." They went back to the command ship. All of them. Lien, Mara, Ghost Fang, 21 children, and the 200 colonists they freed from the lower cells along the way. A small army. A ragged, hungry, frightened army, but an army. The command ship was wounded. The hole Ghost Fang had punched in the hole was still there, jagged and leaking. The Vreth inside were in chaos. Their command structure was fractured. Their communications were down. They were fighting each other as much as they were guarding anything. They went in through the hole. Ghost Fang led. Mara rode on its back. Lien walked beside them, her hand on Ghost Fang's flank, her eyes scanning, calculating, mapping. The children followed, 2 by 2, holding hands. The colonists brought up the rear. Deck 12. The breeding facility. It was a vast chamber, organic and warm, pulsing with bioluminescence. And in it, in rows of enclosures, were the wolves. Not one. Not 10. 50. 50 albino dire wolves, white as absence, pacing in their pens. Males and females. Young and old. Some the size of Ghost Fang. Some smaller. Some larger. All of them engineered. All of them fast. All of them carrying the same neural architecture, the same hollow, the same empty lock. The Vreth handlers were there. 6 of them, armed, alert. They saw the humans. They saw Ghost Fang. They raised their weapons. Mara slid off Ghost Fang's back. She walked forward. She was 8 years old. She had no shoes. Her gray uniform was torn and stained and soaked with stream water and fish blood and tears. She walked forward into the breeding facility of the Vreth Dominion, past the armed guards, past the 50 white wolves, and she stood in the center of the room. She opened her mouth. And she sang. Not hummed. Sang. Full voice, full throat, full chest. The lullaby, the old melody, the key her mother had built and her grandmother had carried and her great-grandmother had passed down. Older than Colony 9, older than Earth, maybe. She sang it, and the sound filled the chamber, filled the organic walls, filled the enclosures, filled the neural architecture of 50 engineered predators. The handlers fired. The shots hit the walls, the ceiling, the floor. They did not hit Mara. Ghost Fang was between them, a white blur, deflecting, redirecting, moving faster than the weapons could track. The wolves stopped pacing. 50 white heads turned. 50 pairs of pink eyes fixed on the small girl in the center of the room. 50 bodies went still. And then, one by one, they lowered their heads. The first one was a female, old, scarred, the size of a transport shuttle. She sank to the floor of her enclosure, belly down, head low, eyes closed. Then the next. And the next. And the next. A cascade, a wave, a chain reaction of white bodies folding, lowering, submitting. The lock opening. The key turning. The hollow filling. The handlers stopped firing. They stared. They could not process what they were seeing. 412 rights. Generations of breeding. Decades of engineering. The most sophisticated predatory weapon system in the known galaxy. And it was being shut down by an 8-year-old girl singing a lullaby. The last wolf lowered its head. 50 white bodies, still and silent, waiting. Mara stopped singing. Her throat was raw. Her eyes were burning. She swayed on her feet. Lien was there. She caught Mara's arm. Steadied her. "It's done," Lien whispered. "It's done, little star. You did it." Mara leaned against her mother. She looked at the 50 wolves. They looked back. 50 pairs of pink eyes, calm, patient, waiting. Not waiting for orders. Waiting for her. Mara was the pack mother of the 51 direwolves of the Vreth Dominion. And she was 8. And she had syrup on her shirt from 3 days ago, and no shoes, and a bruise forming on her knee, and she was the most dangerous person in the galaxy. The Vreth Dominion fell in 6 hours. Not because of violence. Not because of war. Because of silence. The 51 direwolves walked out of the command ship in a single white line, Ghost Fang at the front, Mara riding on its back, Lien walking beside her. They walked across Pad 1, across the gray plains, and they did not run. They walked. Slow. Steady. Deliberate. The Vreth ground forces saw them coming. They raised weapons. They called for orders. But the orders did not come because the command ship was empty, because the handlers were gone, because the wolves were gone, because the one weapon the Vreth had, the one thing that made the galaxy fear them, was walking across the plain behind an 8-year-old girl. They did not fire. They could not fire. The wolves were sacred. The wolves were the right. The wolves were the judgment. And the judgment had chosen. Not the Vreth. The girl. The ground forces stood down. Then the ships in orbit stood down. Then the command structure, fractured and leaderless, collapsed. Not with a bang. With a sigh. A long, grinding, defeated sigh, like a machine winding down. The Vreth left Colony 9 3 days later. Not because they were driven out. Because they had nothing left to fight for. Their weapon was gone. Their right was broken. Their god, the swift death, the white runner, the fastest thing in the galaxy, was lying in a meadow with its head in a child's lap, and it was not going back. The colony was rebuilt. Slowly. Painfully. The dome was patched. The gardens were replanted. The lights on Deck 4 still flickered, but someone fixed them, eventually. The children went back to school. Dax stopped whispering prayers. The girl with the bandage on her forehead, whose name was Suki, sat next to Mara in horse-drawing class and did not draw horses. She drew wolves. White wolves. With a small girl on their back. Mara went back to her quarters. The metal table. The small kitchen. The chair that was too tall. Her mother made pancakes. They were not shaped like stars this time. They were shaped like wolves. Lumpy, uneven wolves, with ears that were too big and legs that were too short. Mara ate them with her fingers. She got syrup on her shirt. "I don't care," she said. "You should care. You're 8 now. I care about the pancakes. I don't care about the shirt." Lien laughed. The warm, full, underwater bell laugh. Mara held it in her chest, in the same place where the bond lived, the warm thread, the open door. After breakfast, Mara went outside. Ghost Fong was waiting. It always waited. It lay in the grass behind the quarters, its white fur bright against the green, its pink eyes tracking the clouds. The other 50 wolves were scattered across the colony, sleeping in gardens, playing with children, being very large, very fast, very gentle dogs. Mara climbed onto Ghost Fang's back. The wolf stood. She looked out over the colony, over the patched dome, over the gray sky that was, for the first time in weeks, clear. No black ships. No grinding voices. No alarms. Just sky. Just wind. Just a girl and a wolf and a long, open plain. "Where do you want to go?" Lien asked from the doorway. She was leaning against the frame, arms crossed, smiling. Mara thought. She thought about the arena. The sand. The silence. The 10,000 eyes. She thought about the moment before the teeth, the stretched time, the closing eyes. She thought about the song, thin and shaky, coming out of her throat because it was the only thing she had. She thought about her mother, in the cell, saying, "I hoped. I hoped it would work." She thought about the Vreth, in their black ships, feeding a child to a wolf because she was unremarkable. Because she was average. Because she was no one. She was not no one. She was Mara-chan. She was 8. She liked pancakes shaped like stars and horses in the margins and the lullaby that meant you're safe. She was the pack mother of 51 dire wolves. She was the girl who broke the Vreth dominion with a song. She was someone. "Everywhere," Mara said. "I want to go everywhere." Ghost Fang's ears went forward. Its tail swept the grass. Lien smiled. Come back for dinner. I will. And Mara? Yeah. Hum the song for me. When you're out there. Hum it for me. Mara smiled. She leaned forward, her hands in Ghostfang's fur, her face in the wind. She hummed. Soft and steady. The old melody. The key. The shield. The love. Ghostfang ran. Not at 300 kilometers per hour. Not a blur. Not a bullet. A run. A real run. The kind where you feel the ground under your paws and the wind in your fur and the sky above you, open and endless and free. Mara rode the fastest direwolf in the galaxy across the plains of Colony 9, under a clear gray sky, humming a song older than Earth. And she was safe. Someone was watching over her. And nothing could touch her. From the archives of the Interstellar Historical Society, entry 7741b, filed 200 years after the fall of the Vreth Dominion. The event known as the Rite of Reversal occurred on Colony 9, a human settlement on the outer rim of Vreth-controlled space. The Vreth Dominion, a militaristic alien hegemony, had maintained control of 12 star systems for approximately 300 years, enforced in part through a program of genetically engineered predators known as direwolves. The fastest and most lethal of these predators, designated Ghostfang, was used in a public execution ritual called the Rite of Consumption. On the date in question, a human child, Mara Chen, age 8, was selected as a rite specimen. She was placed in the arena before approximately 10,000 Vreth spectators. Ghostfang was released. The child was expected to die. She did not die. The child sang a melody of unknown origin. The melody matched a neural resonance frequency embedded in the direwolf's architecture, a failsafe that the Vreth engineers had designed but never activated. The melody was later traced through the Chen family lineage to Dr. Lien Chen, a xenobiologist who had studied Vreth biology for 11 years prior to the invasion. Dr. Chen had identified the neural failsafe and encoded the activation frequency into a lullaby, which she passed to her daughter. The child survived. The direwolf submitted. The child subsequently freed the remaining direwolves in the Vreth breeding program, totaling 51 individuals. The loss of the direwolf program caused the collapse of Vreth military morale and the eventual dissolution of the Dominion. Mara Chen lived to the age of 93. She never left Colony 9. She became a schoolteacher. She drew horses in the margins of her lesson plans. She made pancakes shaped like stars for her students every year on her birthday. Ghostfang lived to the age of 40, an extraordinary lifespan for a direwolf. It never left Mara's side. When it died, Mara sang the lullaby over its body. She sang it for 3 hours. The other 50 wolves lay in a circle around her and listened. The lullaby is still sung. It is passed from mother to daughter, from teacher to student, from voice to voice. It is sung on Colony 9 and on the worlds that were freed, and in the schools and the gardens and the quiet rooms where children are put to bed. The words are in no language anyone speaks anymore. But the meaning is the same, in every tongue, in every voice, in every throat that hums it into the dark. You're safe. Someone is watching over you. Nothing can touch you. End of entry. The end.